Hi, this is Sue, and I am here with a sort of tutorial for one of the problems in project management and estimating. This is the problem for the 2x4s of estimating. This is a quantity takeoff. We need to estimate the number of 2x4s needed to fully frame a single room. So you're given a bunch of information, as you can see on the screen. You're given the room width, the room length, the number of doors in one of the long walls, stud spacing, and then the price of 2x4 by 8-foot boards each, and if they are in a bundle or what's called a unit of 294 boards. There's also a waste factor that you are given, which we will assume that you have calculated yourself based on historical figures from your company. The bid details are important. They say that the wall studs are to be placed on center, plus the door frames and top plate and bottom plate. So that means that if there's a door, you have to remove that width from the width needed for studs, because that'll be taken care of by the door assembly itself. Doors are to be framed with a structural door header, which it's said to look at diagram A, but it's actually diagram B. You can see that structural header where the two boards are back to back and the wide part is facing the inside of the room, as opposed to a non-structural header, which is shown in diagram A, where it's two boards also, but they're this way. I just wanted you to know the difference. It will have full-length jack studs and door studs. Sometimes the jack studs are actually covered by the header, and then the king studs go all the way around the header. It just depends on how you like to frame your rooms. So I had to specify that so that you would know that both the jack stud and the king stud are full-length boards. So that's 4 boards right there. Also talks about there is a single cripple over the door, and that is shown in both diagrams. A cripple is that small section of sort of stud that goes between the top plate and the header. General information: if you didn't know, when you're looking at framing, you generally see the narrow side of the board. And I want to know what's the cost, because the quantity we estimate based on quantity takeoffs. We estimate dollars. So I wanted to do the quantity takeoff and then estimate based on these numbers that you have gotten from your preferred supplier. I have added here in bold, for the purposes of this Blackboard problem, please round only at the last step of summing the total number of boards. So in essence, you are going to be rounding up, because you can't have a partial board. So you're going to be rounding up and then multiplying it by the price per board. If you end up having 294 or more boards needed for this room, then you would multiply it by the bundle price. If it is less than 294, you would multiply it by the per board price. So you can see that really you're just calculating all of these without rounding. You add them up, round to the next full board, multiply by the board price. And you can see that there are really 3 sections to framing a room. There's the top and bottom plates, the studs, and the doors. And the doors are the most complicated, as you can see. And it's really just geometry. It's not complicated. There's just a lot of moving parts. The thing that you want to remember is that the waste factor really should, I had said it should only be the top and bottom plates and the cripple. It also needs to be the header. So you can see that I'm only including that waste factor. I'm only multiplying it by the waste factor for the top and bottom plates and for the cripple and the header. Everything else is just, it's not considered, because those automatically use full boards. And yes, the top and bottom plate are considered to be at the top and bottom of a full board stud. And so you don't need to try and consider shaving off 2 inches and all that sort of stuff. I'm not getting that complicated. So I've given you all the information you need to figure out how many boards you need. Remember, you're multiplying, you're trying to get everything into the common unit of board, which is actually 8 feet long. And so all of the lengths and widths that you are given, if they're in feet, if they're in inches, you just need to figure out how many boards will be needed to do that certain task. For instance, the studs. You basically take the length of the side of the room divided by the stud spacing. Now, if the width is given in feet, you can't just divide by, 14.5 because that's inches. So you need to convert that into feet and then do the division. That will give you a number. It won't be a round, nice, even whole number, but that's okay. You don't need it to be. In fact, you want to add up all of those because that's how you're going to get the number that you need at the end. In real life, you probably would be adding even a little bit more waste because of all of those, partial boards that you would need. But I've got to stop somewhere, and this is a Blackboard problem. And so the more complicated a Blackboard formula is, the more likely it is to break down. And in this case, with all of these moving parts, it creates a very long single formula that Blackboard has to contend with, and it can cause a lot of problems if there's one little error. But believe me, once you draw it out, and you can see, first thing I did was draw a diagram. Once you draw it out and start taking it apart piece by piece, I think it's a lot easier than you realized. This one problem, especially if you use Excel to actually do the number crunching, should not take you more than 10 or 15 minutes all by itself. I believe you can do this. This is just simple geometry. If you have trouble with geometry and you don't remember a lot of the conversion, unit ratios, please look them up on the internet or come ask me. Shoot me a message. Use my office hours. Okay? Thanks very much.